Salesforce just announced that it held talks to buy Slack. After this news came out, Slack's stock jumped 30%, with the market cap now over $20 billion. In this video, we're going to look at how this will affect Salesforce, and if it is a good acquisition, and what Salesforce might look like in the future. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe to see more videos. Salesforce is a software company that aims to improve business operations. It sells cloud-based customer relationship management software, as well as other enterprise applications for services such as marketing and data analytics. And over the years, they have been on an acquisition spree, taking advantage of its market cap growth in recent years to buy growing companies. It acquired MuleSoft for $6.5 billion in 2018, the company's biggest deal ever at the time, to help connect cloud applications. The following year, it spent more than twice that amount on Tableau, acquiring the data visualization company for $15.3 billion. Also this year, Salesforce spent $1.35 billion on ClickSoftware, which provides software to field service management workers. Slack would be one of the biggest software deals ever for the industry. It would rank among IBM's $34 billion purchase of Red Hat in 2019, Microsoft's $27 billion purchase of LinkedIn in 2016, and Facebook's $19 billion purchase of WhatsApp in 2014. With the acquisition of Slack, Salesforce is coming into direct competition with Microsoft Teams. Microsoft already competes with Salesforce in software for tracking customers. Microsoft reportedly looked into buying Salesforce, but no deal came about it. Later, Microsoft launched the Teams communication app. Salesforce created a Slack app that allowed Salesforce customers to share customer records within Slack. And last month, Salesforce launched essentially the same app for Microsoft Teams. Both Salesforce apps enable business users to share customer data with colleagues, so Salesforce could benefit from having full control over its own enterprise messaging platform, and form the hundreds of enterprise apps that integrate with Slack chat functionality. It is going to be interesting to see if Salesforce pulls its apps off Microsoft Teams to bring more customers over that already use Salesforce to Slack. They also might package Slack into other Salesforce pricing tiers just like Office 365. Slack billed itself as an email killer and took a full-page ad in the New York Times welcoming competition from Teams. Amid the first pandemic lockdown, Slack CEO Stuart Butterfield argued that Teams is not a competitor to Slack. However, a few months later, Slack complained to the EU competition regulator that Microsoft was illegally tying Teams to Office 365. Slack last said in October 29 that it had more than 12 million daily active users. Slack reported a Q2 net loss of $68.6 million on revenues of $215 million. This was up 49% year over year. Slack has been having some challenges during the pandemic, as some businesses moved over to Microsoft Teams because they already had Office 365. Companies are also using Zoom as well. Slack's billing for the quarter reflected this challenge during the pandemic. Slack said Q2 billings were $218 million compared to estimates for $232 million. The company is putting the focus on paid and enterprise customers. Slack said that it ended the quarter with over 130,000 paid customers, up 30% year over year, with 985 of those paid customers bringing Slack's annual recurring revenue greater than $100,000. The company added 8,000 new paid customers in the second quarter as well, but even before the pandemic, Slack was struggling a bit. It was charging users between $80 and $150 per user per year for its chat app, while Microsoft charged $60 a year per user for Office 365 for its business premium tier, which included Exchange email, a terabyte of OneDrive storage, Skype for Business, and Teams. This acquisition will be a leveraged buyout and bring a lot of debt into Salesforce balance sheet. However, interest rates are super low, so this isn't as big of a deal as it seems. Also, they have a strong balance sheet already and have been growing like crazy recently. In the most recent second quarter earnings, Salesforce brought in revenues of $5.15 billion, which was up 29% year over year. They also brought in $2.26 billion in net income for the quarter, so they definitely have the earnings potential to buy Slack. Salesforce also continues to generate growth in its homegrown Sales Cloud business, which provides customers relationship management tools to salespeople. Revenues in that unit increased 15% to $1.17 billion. Salesforce said it expects to double in size by fiscal 2024, with revenues that year reaching between $34 billion and $35 billion. Salesforce has always been looking to acquire other companies. Back in 2016, Salesforce was in talks with acquiring Twitter. Investors were not happy about this though, and Salesforce stock began to drop as talks dragged on. Salesforce ended up abandoning the talks with Twitter, but that shows that Salesforce isn't afraid to take on risks and acquire other companies that might not be the perfect fit for them in their company at the moment. Slack, on the other hand, is definitely a better fit for Salesforce than Twitter. This acquisition of Slack is another example of the trend of big acquisitions that have been happening over the years. Companies are starting to consolidate, and instead of creating software themselves and building out their own customer base, they are more likely to acquire a more established name already, such as Slack. It is going to be interesting to see what Salesforce does with Slack and how they will compete and try to keep up with Microsoft Teams. This acquisition also gives a little validation for Dropbox shareholders, as Dropbox CEO Drew Houston wanted to acquire Slack back in 2016, but the board blocked his decision. So it shows his insight is spot on, and their recent acquisition of HelloSign gives me even more confidence in their acquisition choices, but that's a whole different thing. And with that being said, as always, thanks for watching, and like and subscribe to see more videos.